Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Buffalo Plus YouTube page and on BuffaloPlus.com. Mike Catalana, Jenna Cottrell, and the new father of the group, Dan Fates. Dan, you getting any sleep these days?
Does napping count as sleep? That's the thing. I don't think I've slept more than like an hour at a time, but it's all right.
Yeah, I think what you need to know is napping is sleep now.
Okay, then yeah, I'm getting about an hour of sleep about every 6 hours.
All right. You're not opting out of the fatherhood thing. You're in it forever now. But let's talk about the opting out with the players. Start Lotulelei of the Bills right away. Jenna, there's a lot of reasons why guys opt out. Some is for health reasons.
Yeah.
Some is for family reasons. Some might be for money reasons. Now, we don't know for sure, but Star could be one of those guys.
Yeah, I could definitely see it being a kind of triple thing, like a combining everything and being like, these reasons just make sense for me not to play the season. And when you talk about money, that's obviously a huge factor. You know, if Star Lotulelei were to play this year, in the season were to be called, he wouldn't be making as much money, and his contract would then kick into the next year. So I can see why he would want to sit back and wait. Now he's going to be, I know some fans were talking about, oh, whatever, he opted out of last season. But I think he's been a huge presence for the team in the middle of the field. He's been huge for their run defense. And that's definitely going to be a veteran presence. Although we don't see him speak so much, that's a leader that's not going to be there.
Yeah, I think it's maybe losing Star isn't a big hole because you do have Harrison Phillips coming back, but it's a hole that you have to fill. Like, it's a veteran guy. It's a big body that can play right up the gut and takes on a whole bunch of double teams. I can't remember what Harrison Phillips said about guys up front, but he just said that, like, they get, like, no love, that they're the ugly, you know, the girlfriend, that, like, they just do all of the work and everything, and they just don't get any of the love in return or appreciation. And so I think that is going to be a problem there because, like Jenna said, you are losing a veteran presence too, where you've already lost Lorenzo and like those veteran guys. But yeah. I think that it makes sense for a lot of guys to opt out in this situation.
Yeah, but we have to also keep something in mind. Sometimes we'll all say that. It's like, yes, you have Harrison Phillips, right? But here's the truth. You would have had Star and Harrison Phillips.
Right.
Yeah.
And in this year with COVID, plus there's always a chance of regular injuries, you know, as much depth as possible you need. And all of a sudden now, okay, so let's say Harrison Phillips steps in and maybe AJ Epinesa moves inside and they get snaps. All that is great, but you know they were counting on Star to play a certain amount of snaps. You know, he was the main guy in there. Do you think it's just the start? Jenna, I'll begin with you. You know, these guys are just coming into camp.
Yeah.
They're just seeing the way it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think there's going to be a lot more?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised considering other teams have seen, I mean, the Patriots obviously having multiple guys was kind of surprising to me. For the Bills, I could see a couple more guys doing it, maybe some of their other veterans. But yeah, I mean, I think we've seen a lot of players opt out across the league, and I can't blame them. I understand why, but it makes it interesting because you add that dimension to rosters now as well. In terms of if a team were to have a COVID outbreak, how is that going to affect it? But now coming into it, you're like, well, there's going to be some players that just aren't even going to be there. So having a larger roster size and everything that goes into that as well.
And I think NFL players are keeping an eye out and to see what's going on around the MLB. There's an outbreak with the Miami Marlins team. That is a big issue there because, look, the MLB and the NFL did not do bubbles. The NBA and the NHL are having about 0 positive tests as they go on and on. They're in a bubble. This is not a bubble. You had I think it was Devin McCourty, again, a guy from New England, was on his podcast saying that he doesn't think that there's no way that this season is going to get all the way through because he's already seen guys post pictures at clubs. He's already seen guys that are training in one state one day, they're training in another city the next day, and they're all bouncing around. This is going to be an issue because you're not under a bubble. And the other thing, you talk about guys that may opt out. You have to look at guys that have young families.
Yeah.
You know, I'm obviously now thinking about everything I do is now I'm bringing home to my, 5-day-old daughter. Micah Hyde just had a kid this summer.
Yeah.
Like
we know.
I'm not questioning anybody's love for the game if you opt out. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with whether I think you're a gamer or a leader or a competitor. It's the fact of, like, this is real. This is scary stuff. and you're already putting your life on the line, getting onto the field. You don't need to be bringing your life back and risking anything more.
And you make
I was going to ask you.
point.
Oh, go ahead, Jenna.
No, just like thinking about people on the team who have young babies. I know Mitch Morse, John Feliciano, Deion Dawkins, like you said, Micah Hyde. I mean, there's a lot of players that have more like recently had children. So that's another thing to add to it as well.
Yeah. So Devin McCourty on a podcast. So he's a player and to some extent a media member, because I'm reading from people saying the only reason these players are opting out is because the media is scaring everybody, right? So does Devin McCourty count as a media member scaring everybody about this?
He's crossed into the dark side. No.
Yeah. I mean, come on. We know
fake
the
news,
reality.
McCourty. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Look, and there's players have to make these choices all the time. It's in a different way. It's like when a player decides to retire early and other people, all of a sudden, you see people come down on it. It's their own life, right? And the guy is choosing not to make any money this year. And let's face it, I had people tweet back to me after I said, like you guys did, the Stars opted out, and they're like, he's opting out for a season that isn't going to happen. I don't know if we're there yet, but I got to tell you, I don't know how confident I am in 5 months of an NFL season going this way. And I think a lot of players are like, this isn't what I signed up for, to play in the NFL. Yeah. And maybe if they're giving me this option, I'm going to do it.
Mike, you also saw, I'm a Braves fan, so you watched some guy show up to MLB training, the summer camp. Felix Hernandez did it, and Nick Markakis, both for Atlanta, showed up, and everybody's like, well, and then all of a sudden they opted out, and everybody's going, well, why'd they opt out? Because they showed up and went like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I can't keep myself safe. I don't want to do this. Nick Markakis said he talked to Freddie Freeman, who got COVID, who was late there, and said it was the scariest thing. And he goes, he didn't sound right. Like, it was scary. Like, little things like that are going to affect the outside world, is now going to affect the inside, world of the NFL. So it's going to be really interesting. And I was one of the ones, we've done the podcast, guys, and I've said 100% there's going to be the NFL season. Boy, that's going to be a freezing cold take I'm going to roast myself on.
Well, I just think the idea of planning and knowing is going to be tough to follow this year. They're just starting training camp. It's going to be weeks before they're actually doing connected drills, where they're together doing things. It's going to be a very slow ramp up to a season, and it's obviously the hardest of the games to coordinate, to get ready to play without actually playing the game, right? I'm watching hockey today. I watched basketball. They look like regular games. That's a lot harder to do in football. I think there needs to be some patience and a little bit of understanding, which are two things our country's just filled with these days, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've said it before. The way the MLB handles this Miami Marlins outbreak is going to be crucial to see how the NFL moves forward. If the MLB wants to actually say they care about their players and care about their safety, they're going to have to put their money where their mouth is. And guys, the Marlins, they got canceled pretty much their games for the rest of the week. You can't cancel a football game. Like MLB teams can make up games. You can play double headers. Even NHL, you can move a game around. You play on Sundays in the NFL. And then because other teams have to prepare for other games.
Look at what just happened with the Yankees, right? Where the Yankees game were supposed to play in Philly one night, then they were supposed to go to New York to play the next night. That got canceled, and they call them up. I heard Brian Cashman say, I called up Aaron Boone and said, hey, I know we're supposed to get on the bus and go to New York. How would you feel about us going to Baltimore and playing for 2 days? He's like, great, I'm all in, let's go. You can do that in baseball.
Yeah.
You can't do that in football. We all want it to happen, but I'm worried, okay? I'm worried. I think show of hands if you're worried about this season not going all the way through. Yeah, right? I hope we're all wrong. I hope it goes great, perfect, no problems. Bill's virtual Super Bowl party, that would all be great. But,
oh my gosh, can you imagine?
Yeah.
But it was nice today to see some normalcy of Josh Allen walking into the building. I think Bills fans really enjoyed that.
Right, except he walked into the building to take a COVID test and then go home for 72 hours to come back and take another. So that's
hashtag 2020.
2020, yes.
Oh my God.
Right, Dan? Thumbs up from Josh Allen.
I'm trying to be positive.
Good guy.
Thumbs up. There we go. All right, that's going to do it for us. We're not trying to bring everybody down. We're just trying to give you some information here so we understand it. And maybe as we start to hear from the players, everybody will get a little different vibe as to how they feel, especially after they're living in this COVID world in their own bubble in Orchard Park. For Dan and Jenna, I'm Mike. Thanks for watching here on Buffalo Plus and the Buffalo Plus YouTube page.